I also want to offer a perspective in terms of how we manage the administrative process of compensation plans. So a colleague of mine refers to this as the day two problem. So day one, you roll out your compensation plans. Day two, stuff happens in the organization. People go on leave of absence, people terminate, territories get realigned. There's flux in the organization that have downstream impacts and effects to the incentive compensation process. And so how do you actually put governance models in place to be able to account for all of those changes and incorporate them effectively into your compensation program? And so typically we manage this through workflows. These are the same workflows that you know and love today that power your financial close in the finance organization. These are, of course, all configurable in terms of how you manage the activities and the sequencing of steps and the approval chains that need to go through to be able to adequately and efficiently complete in this particular case, payroll close process. And in our case, it typically starts with the data, loading the data into the system. Now, this could be loaded through your CRM system. It could be loaded through an ERP system or a combination of the two. A lot of this data exists in OneStream already. So when you think about the investment that you've made to data quality, data enrichment, that investment is leverageable in incentive compensation as well. Also enabling organizations to operate off one source of truth as they go through their incentive program as well. So data is critically important. Another aspect that's important is around managing your roster of people. Typically, we'll manage the roster of people through integration with an HCM system, understanding all the changes that happen in the workforce, new hires, role changes, maybe changes to their incentive structure. All of those have downstream impacts, and it needs to go through the proper change management protocols and the appropriate approvals before integrating it into the incentive compensation program. And this empowers sales operations and compensation operations to have line of sight in terms of all the changes that are happening so they can account for them responsibly in their incentive compensation program. With our experience in the space, one of the things that we recognize as being invaluable to sales operations organizations and finance organizations is taking proactive measures in terms of flagging and signaling data anomalies before we distribute incentives to the field. So how do we create rules and institute them in the program such that it flags peculiar or anomalous data points that we need to take remedial action on? An example of that might be around high order amounts or windfall deals that might put the business at risk for explosive payouts based on the way the compensation schemes have been designed. So how do we flag these early and often? How do we take action on them before we calculate even a single incentive compensation record and distribute that to the sales organization? At the end of the day, we want the distribution of the incentive statement to the sales reps to be as frictionless and as seamless as possible. So how do we take proactive measures early to be able to account for any changes or that need to be made from a data perspective? And what we'll find is that as we load data over time and we uncover new data scenarios, this will enable us to build the inventory of rules that we check for so that eventually our compensation program is running as a well-oiled machine. We have visibility into all the potential challenges that we might see with our data, and we can manage that in a proactive way. And then finally, there's the concept of integrating to the upstream territory and quota management process. So when you think about the territory management models and how it's data effective in nature and people are constantly moving in and out of territories, our accounts are being reassigned, territories are being realigned, well, those have material downstream impacts into incentive compensation. And in the same way that we want to have governance on the people changes, we also want to have governance on the go-to-market changes as well. And we want to be able to understand through change management protocols what the potential impact to incentive compensation is going to be and route those through the appropriate workflow approvals. Typically, you heard Phil kind of refer to the concept of digital tuck tape. This is what we typically see. Organizations that are managing sales operations management, territory and quota management, either offline, or in one system, and incentive compensations in another system, and trying to find mechanisms to connect them in very kind of challenging ways he referred to as digital duct tape. Well, having it all unified and fully connected in one platform is an extremely valuable capability for sales operations to really effectively manage the full end-to-end sales performance management process. And at the end of it all, ultimately this culminates to, of course, the derivation of a payroll extract or a payroll file. Once all the calculations are calculated, sometimes manual adjustments are made on top of those calculations. Well, how do we compile that into a format that is readable and consumable by the payroll system so that we can ultimately pay the commissions and bonuses in an automated way to the sales organization?